I hope you're enjoying the conference. My apologies for not being able to be in person today. It is a pleasure for me to be here as part of this panel to try to synthesize and summarize the major points from the Global Evidence Commission after all the presentations from my colleagues and friends. So, as you already know, Jeremy mentioned, the Global Evidence Commission report built a lot on the experience that we have in the COVID and network. And all this discussion that we had in the COVID and network brought us to most of what have been discussed so far. From the COVID and recommending working group, we had the opportunity to discuss among guideline experts around the world, and we found key elements in the guidelines that should be improved in the development of guidelines during the COVID pandemic. We found three major limitations related to low quality of the guidelines, a lot of duplication of efforts, and a lack of collaboration among groups. We think this should be addressed as much as possible. But we also have some positive outcomes from the experience that we have developing guidelines in the COVID and in the COVID pandemic, which is, for instance, refining the method for developing rapid guidelines and also living guidelines. What can we get from this? And taking advantage of what the Global Evidence Commission has said in the report. The report has a lot of recommendations, and I think these are very, very relevant for the guidelines community. The first thing to encourage and to recommend to all the people who are here, guideline researchers, developers, and implementers, is to read the full report that Jeremy mentioned and apply the recommendation to their own practice, everyday practice, their organization or on the work in the guidelines field. So reading the report is the first step, but also disseminating this report among people who work with you in the guideline organizations, with funders, with healthcare decision makers at different levels. And also, of course, apply the recommendation in the guideline development. So all the people who work in guidelines, developers, researchers, implementers, we need to apply recommendations like, for instance, increase adherence to the best quality standards. If we develop guidelines of the highest quality, in general, we know all the benefit that this will bring, but also will increase the credibility that we would like the guidelines to have. We encourage collaborate more with other organizations. Increase this collaboration will reduce duplication of effort, adapting to new innovation, as the report suggests, being prepared for future emergency, establish the best method for doing rapid guidelines in case of emergency, encourage open access publication, increases the dissemination of the final guidelines, not only in the usual repositories of the guidelines organization, but also in publication of papers that are open access, encourage academic institutions to fund and to facilitate evidence synthesis development and also guideline development, and also discuss with funders more projects related to what we call global public goods, evidence synthesis, guidelines, HTA, and others. Also discuss with journalists about encourage publication of guideline recommendation and all this research, regardless of the outcome, if it's a positive or negative outcome. And also, of course, there are two major things to suggest for guidelines, specifically for guidelines, which are registration. The more we register our guidelines in the databases that have been developed for that, like the Guideline International Network database, which is is open to everyone, would be a key step in reducing duplication of effort and increasing collaboration between groups. Other groups around the world could see what other guideline groups are doing and consider collaborating and also adapting. And of course, the second recommendation is to adapt more. There are a lot of duplication of effort, and the more we adapt and use the evidence that have been synthesized by other groups will be good for guidelines in general. And also, of course, we encourage the participation of patients and citizens, as just Maureen said, as part of the guideline development process from the beginning to the end. And also, finally, it is very important to consider that in the implementation process, guidelines should also be implemented in the best way possible. And for that, we suggest the use of evidence. There are a lot of evidence on how to best implement guidelines. We are doing a lot of efforts in doing the best evidence possible synthesis to do the guidelines, but sometimes we neglect the implementation part and using the best evidence to do the implementation. So use the knowledge translation intervention that are available and have the best evidence for the effectiveness and for achieving the best goal that we want in our patients. Thank you.